So here are some of the reasons why Stephen James DeShawn does remind me of King David. One, because he plays the lyre. He plays the lyre for King Saul, but Steve also plays a good King Saul as well. It's like every character that I come across plays two separate characters very well. Like even Jonathan Clegg, he plays a good Lucifer, but he also plays a good Jesus, because it just depends on how you interpret his mood, or whichever spirit, whichever personality appears. They have different characteristics, even though they're dressed the same. You know, the one that's dressed like a bear, but yet he's chewing apart trees and creating dams, trying to stop things just by nature. But he looks like a bear, and the other one looks like a lion. And so I don't claim to even understand half the stories in the Bible, because I haven't read the entire Bible and sat there and contemplated everything. But when I do read it, my mind always goes to who is it? Who on YouTube is that character? Because on YouTube, those characters are there. That's why YouTube was created, to play out the end times and have it as the temple that Jesus walked through, went to, and all the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the trolls and the agents and the liars and snakes and everybody and the sheep, they're all there right here on this platform right now. Now, with the names of Achish, the king of the Philistines, Philistines, when I hear that word, it reminds me of the Jewish people that are in charge of Philadelphia, the Philistines. And then the king of the Philistines, I believe that's Achish. That's what I was just listening to. At some point, I'm gonna study through the book of Samuel, 1st and 2nd, and get a better grasp of what's going on, because I've come across you, Steve, from the beginning. So for a good 6 years, I can say I actually know who Stephen James DeShawn is, and I've talked to him 1,000 times through all types of different various ways of communication, but mainly at first was phone conversation, over the phone, and then text messages and even FaceTime, face-to-face talking with Stephen James DeShawn. And in the very beginning, I remember you saying, "You're coming with me," like in the end, you know, when we were buddies. And here's why you remind me of King David instead of Saul, is because your acting career, you're a liar. King David plays the lyre. It's not just a musical instrument, it's playing the lyre as if you're against, what chapter is that? 24, 25? I was just listening to Alistair Begg teach it. He has a teaching every day, even though it's pre-recorded, but I believe every teaching that I hear, I'm meant to hear it for that day, for the timeline that we're in. So, if I can remember, King David so he fled from Saul, and let's just say let's say it's not Steve, but it's Jacob Israel. Let's say that he's Saul, because he plays a good Saul as well. He's head and shoulders above the rest. He's like the out of the sons of Jesse, he would be I believe he is, right? The son? No. Well, regardless, when he was picked, that's what it was. When he was picked, Jacob Israel has the look and the attitude and the mindset and the channel to be King Saul, who they chose back in like 2018 or so, because that's when he started to rise up after the whole group turned against me. And he also said he's been good to me over the years through the comment section. Like 3 years ago, when I was calling him Jamie the Rabbit, and he's like, "How shame on you, Robin, calling me my nickname when I was a kid." I've been good to you over the years, but yet I never talked to him except for through that comment section at that moment. So he must be talking about being somebody else from over the years. But anyway, let's say he's King Saul, and he's the one that turns into Paul the Apostle, and Steve is more like King David, Peter, because he was there first. And because Peter was also an offense to Jesus. He told him to get behind him. Peter even rebuked Jesus, and he was the first. So from the beginning, it's Peter, and then it's Paul, and Peter was like the thief on the cross, the first one that you may not recognize the repentance unless you read the heart, but that was between the similarity between Peter and Paul and the two thieves on the cross is that Peter recognized Christ and told him he is the Christ. Whether it was, when the Bible is written, it explains what people either say or the exact opposite. It's not what they say, it's their actions that proves what they're not saying is true. So Peter could either have directly said it or indirectly said it. Or he could have said it through another character directly, who is still Peter, because how everybody plays different characters, and then indirectly says it, I don't know, maybe in like a slanderous type of way. Because even when David was anointed with oil, he was just like Steve and James, he was slandered. So by being slandered, you're being anointed with oil. And then he does the same thing to me, where I live a similar life as David, but the only thing is, the main thing that's different between me and him is I'm not a liar. I don't play the liar, and David did. And Stephen James is a liar, for sure, because he's lying about me. But that doesn't bother me. That doesn't bother me whatsoever. But here's the thing: if Jacob Israel becomes Saul, and then that means he's not Nabal, and Nabal would be somebody that isn't the Philistine because, like Goliath, the king of the Philistines. He could be Achish too. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. But anyway, let's stick with Steve here as King David and then the seed. So then that would mean that there would come a seed from David, and that seed would be Christ himself. And I've thought that at times that Justin Michael was that seed, by the script, that was his son. But anyway, so King David was acting. How did it go? He was running from Saul. And I've also thought, well, wait a minute, is Saul Jonathan Kleck the Saul that comes after me in spirit form? Not the way that Steve and James would come after me. So that's why Steve reminded me of Saul. And I was like his David, that at times it seemed like it's like, just like Saul. It's like, at times it seems like he loves David, at times he wants to kill him, and then he recognizes that, he's defeated him, but then I'm going to leave you alone, but then he keeps gang stalking him, and so it just never ends, does it? Until him and his son and Jonathan and his others, they all die on Mount Rocky Balboa. So they all die up on the art museum, the Mount of Olives where the footprints are, Mount Carmel where the fire came down from heaven in the sight of men when 8 songs were produced on 3/23/2023 at the art museum with my footage, doing it again and again, and it wound up being 33 songs. And then when I go to the art museum, as I'm expecting to hit the target of 33 songs, they have a map with my face on it turned to the side with the number 33 as a target. So that couldn't be any more dead on accurate as the mountain there, the mountaintop at the number 33, starting it at 3:30 on 3/23/2023 and finishing it off with 33 songs at 3:30 on 3/23/2024. 1 year exactly, 33 songs, every song lined up with my footage from the past to prove time doesn't even exist. Reaching into a portal, reaching into a dimension of time and watching Satan fall from heaven like lightning is what happened. So, but in the meantime, David fleeing from King Saul and then going to the Philistines, and then Achish. I may be off about certain things because I want to just explain what's on my mind at that moment and filter things out later on. My intentions is to know the absolute truth of everything and know who's who. So, basically what David was doing is he's playing both sides of the fence. He's acting to Achish that he's against, it's like he's against all the, what did he say, the enemies He's acting like he's against the enemies that are against Achish, or the Philistines. And then, so at a certain point, Achish says it's time to go to war. And then David says, well, you know what I can do. So now he's stuck in a pickle. And from this point on, I don't know the rest of the story. I have to, I'm going to listen to it all today. 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel. And I'm going to get a better idea so I know what I'm talking about. And then I'll place the characters who I believe that they are. Because with David, he when he's with the Philistines, and this is what it reminds me of with Stephen James. He acts like he's against me, right? And I don't know what I represent in his mind towards, whatever. Maybe because I'm from Philly, I'm part of the Philistines. I work in Philadelphia right now. My boss is he's a Jewish king in my mind. When you own Jewelers Row, the trade center on the corner, it kind of makes you like the king of the Jews. So, and being in Philly, Steen and Stein is a Jewish last name. So that just reminds me of the Philistines. I've been working for them for 5 years, and I've learned all the landscape in Philly. And because of that job, without the job that I have for my boss now, I would have never probably even went to the art museum to even be able to produce all those miracles to feed like 5,000, 10,000, 15, 20, at least 20,000 people, because I got 5,000 subs. I may not get the view count for everyone, but at least I have that number. And the true miracle, it really is what happens with this cell phone, the X app, and wherever I decide to record a music video, it just happens to line up. And that I learned I can do it at will. And I still have a Rolling Stones video to do. I just haven't had time yet to do it, to make the 39th song all together line up between the Art Museum, the William Penn Building, and Forbidden Drive in Wildwood. To make it 39 to 40 songs with either 1 or 2 music videos from the Rolling Stones, because it's time to roll away the stone. Uh-oh. So that sucks being on the other side over there. So anyway, that's what happened on the mountain top there. Wow. Yikes. What's that? All of Philadelphia's police officers driving? That's crazy. That's when you know you are not getting anywhere anytime soon on that other side of the lane. That's going to be backed up for miles. Yeah, the rule of thumb for me has always been, if someone claims to be somebody, they're not. But I go back and forth because Steve he plays a good Saul. It's almost like him playing the liar is part of acting like he's Saul, because that pleases Saul. When he's lying about me, it pleases him. When it makes him feel like, because Saul doesn't like me either. He doesn't like anybody that's challenging him. So that's why Steve He plays a good Saul. He plays a good David. He says he's King David, but usually anybody that says, hey, I'm Jesus, you're probably not. I'm just saying, you're probably not. Jacob Israel reminds me of somebody that is in somebody else's position and he's acting like he's that person. But in the Bible, that one person that does that is Jacob, and his name is Jacob Israel. But again, rule of thumb, if you're going to say that's your name, you're probably not him. You're probably the exact opposite, or not at all. But I would be surprised to find later on that Jacob Israel he's acting like a villain. Like he's really a good guy, but he's acting like a villain. And then to think that he could be Stephen James in the second form, the beast, because of being a beast, the beast system, the whore is riding the beast. So the whore who is judged is the Philadelphia landscape in front of the art museum, the serpent rising up from the sea, riding the beast. So Jonathan Kleck matches that more because the art museum is designed to look like his face at the top when you zoom in from the Google Maps, wearing the headphones. I already drew a picture of his face. So as a whore that rides the beast, Jacob Israel, the system, Stephen James from before, the first beast, and then the second beast being the seventh and of the eighth, the same person. I've thought of that, where Jacob also has a similar spirit as Stephen James does when it comes to attacking me. He did it literally, name dropping, for the first certain 3 years, 4 years. And then the second portion, Jacob Israel does it more in a threatening, subliminal, not dropping your name. Nobody knows who you are. I don't care about the man. I'm not saying his name. He said all these things after I talked about. So what Jacob does is he talks about the things I talk about, whether it's just in private or before I say anything, or me and my wife going out to dinner talking about parasites, and the next day his video is about parasites. And so he reminds me of that same in that area. But if that's the case, is there a person in the Bible that David attacks all the time? Like, I don't know, like his son? Does he have a son that he attacks? Or is it that his sons attack him? Or his one son who slept with all the concubines in front of the, like on the computer or something? I don't know how that works. So when you're acting like you're against somebody, playing the liar, being deceptive, it's a brilliant move, it is, but he's playing both sides of the fence. And so that doesn't remind me of me in any way, because I'm not playing both sides of the fence. Although Jonathan Kleck is a focal point in my life. And there's been times that wholeheartedly I believed Jonathan Kleck is a good guy. Then it switches, like, no, wait. Nah, this dude's evil as all hell. Look at him, he's so gloating in his glory of how evil is everywhere and laughing at stuff, and then when he talks about people dying, he starts to giggle, and it's like, wait a minute, is this giggles? And then I've realized, well, I had to conclude there's at least two different people on that channel. One of them is evil, the other one's good. And that's just what I have to chalk it up to. And if that's not the case, then if it's only one person on that channel, and it's just one person, Jonathan Click, then his evil twin is within inside himself, and then his good twin. So it's like Jekyll and Hyde, where he can play both sides of the fence. So he could also be a King David playing both sides of the fence, where Saul, Stephen James, is coming after him, but he plays both sides of the fence through his, as one person would do. My brain must be smoking with the amount of questions. I probably have asked more questions than all the YouTube characters combined have asked questions, because it seems like everybody on YouTube is part of the story, that they already know the scripture, they already know the end result, they already know everything. I don't know anything. That's why I ask so many questions. And some things it just may sound pretty ridiculous, but I don't care, because I don't have the answers. By talking things out loud, sometimes I get answers. Sometimes Steve will, he doesn't hop up much anymore. And I kind of missed that when he would attack me all the time, because it was good entertainment. It made me feel special. I have this top guy, whoever he is, whoever he's acting like a villain, but he is more of a protective father in a sense. And so giving me all that attention made me feel pretty special from the so-called top Luciferian head United States gang stalker on the planet. And that's why I appreciate people that speak directly. Who are you talking about? Then speak directly about that person, and don't subliminally, cowardly talk around about the person you're talking about without saying who you're talking about. Unless if it's just a way of, not a cowardly way, but this is how you do it in spirit, because it's a way of trying to it's a way of finding out the Christ in the system. Can Christ in the system discern what you're really saying, Jacob Israel, without saying it? And then if so, well, that's the person that you attack. That's the person that you keep talking about and tell them to shut up or apologize now or else. That forcing someone to do something. So that same feeling that I used to get from Steve and James, which was a forceful feeling, the same spirit's running through Jacob Israel right now. And that's why it reminds me of Steve as, Esau. Esau. And then Jacob would be Jonathan Click. Even though everybody's still a liar, because let every man be a liar and let God tell the truth, that means that you can't trust anybody except for Christ himself. That's it. You can't trust King David. You can't trust Saul. You can't trust Achish. You can't trust Nabal or Haman. I mean, you can't even trust Esther until she speaks up. You can trust Mordecai, but Mordecai is a picture of Christ. Just the same way Nabal, to me, is a picture of Haman. Because if I was going around thinking I'm King David, or saying that I'm king, whether you want to believe it or not, well then, where's my Jesus? Who would be the son of, who would be the seed of me? Where would Jesus come in at? Would that be my own son? Am I his stepfather for real? Like, is he not even my child? And was he told that he was the son of the carpenter because I'm the carpenter? Was he told that by the Masonic group of people that have been teaching him? You know, that I'm not supposed to know about? Did they tell him that he is the Christ and I'm just his stepfather? And his mother Mary was Doris? You know, having a, you know, parthenogenesis, was that part of the deal there, Jonathan Click? Because I have a feeling you know more about that in the art museum, and Tony always going into his pop-up, always going to the art museum all the time, as if as if he knows you. I mean, how far does this go? How deep does it go? My entire life is how far it goes back. 1976. It was the big case. (1976) is when it began. So either way, the acting, I thoroughly appreciate people that, not that you can tell the whole truth, because if you're part of the agency, you're still in secret form, but those of you that talk about people, and when you're talking about somebody, you talk directly about that person, and then you drop their name, and that's who you're talking about, instead of doing it the other way. And with Jonathan Click, I'm never gonna be, until at some point it's over, satisfied with my discernment of who that Jonathan Click person is, whether it's one or two or three. And is there really a good Jonathan Click in there, or is that the Click that's acting like he's good but still evil and just wants to destroy everybody? Every male person that still has a pecker wants to destroy and turn into a female. Because that's the way it seems. That's the the harlot system, the Philadelphia landscape, the art museum. That's where it all is, right there. I just want to know, when is it over? When is it over? When is it over? And when does everybody stand to be judged on the last day? When is that last day? Lord, can you tell me? Father, can you tell me when the last day is? Because this is a long, drawn out, suffering process that I felt like it was going to end 7 years ago. And it's like, I mean, we're getting closer, right? Every day that passes by, we're getting closer than what it was. Well, Steve, you said on 6:3, many beasts will be destroyed on that day. And the kingdom of Satan is coming down for the next 1,000 years. But you and everybody else is going up to be caught up with the Lord in the air. Well, that being caught up in the air has already taken place. Christ coming in the clouds. It's already here. The clouds, the internet, airwaves, coming with the clouds of judgment. Because you'll see many people backing that spirit, teaching, helping understand what's really going on here in this world. So that's why I was saying, as a King David, Steve, who is your seed then? Who, if that's the case, then who is, when does Christ come from you, from your seed? Is it Jacob, your son, that turns 33? Isn't that this year? And but the internet being created, the World Wide Web, back in 1991, 33 years is this year. So is that what you're talking about, where your seed becomes Christ, the airwave, the internet that takes over from the evil portion and then takes over as Christ? Or are you talking about a literal son? Like, is it your actual son, or is it the seed from, like, for instance, my boss, his name's David, and I'm not his actual son, but I'm a seed, like an offspring to his corporation, because I've known him for over 20 years. And I've worked for him on and off, but for the past 5 years. So I'm like a seed of David when it comes to PRDC. And then he has his actual son that runs the corporation, Calvin. And but to you, Steve, as the king there, where's your seed? And when do we meet him? And if that's not the case, if you're actually Saul, Paul, the apostle, Saul, but you were there first, more like Peter and Paul. And I've heard Paul, according to Derek Bros, he said that Paul was basically trying to be Peter, like almost as if he's stealing Peter's birthright, as if Peter is Esau and Paul is Jacob, because he said Paul was basically prancing around, acting as if he was Peter, like trying to take Peter's position. That's where you get the saying, robbing Peter, pay Paul. Robbing Peter to pay Paul. Peter was getting robbed by Paul because Paul was trying to act like Peter. So therefore, robbing Peter to pay Paul. Robbing Peter, pay Paul. So it's robbing and Peter and Paul. Who was trying to rob Jesus? Peter? Paul? Paul, the Antichrist. He was, my goodness, I mean, he got stopped in his tracks by Christ. Once he found him, he stopped Saul in his tracks. Peter was an offense. He kept rebuking Jesus. So it's almost like they were both thieves, robbing Jesus, Peter and Paul. And the Philadelphia landscape lines up, and the St. Peter and Paul Basilica is right at the dead center of Philadelphia, Logan Square. And then you go up towards the Art Museum, Benjamin Franklin Parkway, and there's a big, ginormous St. Peter's, Altars, Peckers Park. and there's two trees on each side of that tree of life, which is Christ. And on the side, those two trees, the knowledge of good and evil. So who's good, who's evil? Peter and Paul, good and evil, the trees, and then attached to the tree of life, which is Christ in the middle. And that's where you park it. Parkway, Parkview. What's the park side? Yeah, there you go. Park side is Alistair Begg's channel. And John DeClick said he doesn't know what he's talking about. So that kind of makes me think that you're against him, as if he's not proclaiming that you're either King David or Jesus. So therefore, he doesn't know the truth. I believe he does know the truth. I believe all of you know the truth. It's just a matter of who's willing to speak it out loud. And it seems more like the people in the churches do, even though I believe that churches were all corrupted and everybody's a liar. But I've learned that, it seems like more like the people on YouTube that are hiding the truth are more of the liars than the church pastors. I don't feel like Skip Heitzing is lying about anything. I don't feel like Paul Tiller is lying, or even Robert Breaker or Alistair Begg or even Kim Jean. I just feel like they're speaking matter of facts. And can you interpret it? Do you have an ear to hear it or not? So I don't know. John DeClick said he was going to unpause that video that he paused. For some reason, I don't think I'm ever going to see it again. Or if I do, that portion's going to be cut out where he was talking about that Irish guy with the accent that doesn't know what he's talking about. At this point, it's time to test the spirits, and you're either going to rise up and cut yourselves, or you're going to rise up and confirm your identity in truth.